this lesson we're going to be modeling an eye. It's going to include the eye socket, the eyeball, as well as the eyelids. So I'm going to identify the faces that are going to make up the eye socket. And when I drew this character, if you look from the side view, I've actually got eyes that are kind of wrapping around on the top of the forehead here, so they actually are up further than what the character can actually do in 3D. Okay, and as far as the side here as well, the eyes are kind of wrapping around to the side of the character. So this is kind of an instance here where the 2D is not lining up with the 3D, and I'm going to follow what's working right with the 3D here. I don't want to cross over the forehead area here, or what is the side of the character. This point right here is our corner of our original cube that we had. So I'm going to select these faces going up to those edges right here, but I'm not going to go past them, and I'll just work within these constraints right here. So with these selected, I'm going to extrude those and center that. Pull this over here, and I'm just going to scale it in a little bit. And then what I'm going to do is come back, and I'm going to select these vertices here, turn on edge slide, and my orientation, I need to fix that. I've got it on component here. I'm going to go back to object, and you can also just reset the tool. Okay, I'm going to close that, and then I'm going to start pushing these down to create the roundness that I'm looking for around the eye socket. Okay, and I might pull some of these back just a little. Okay, and then get a little bit more roundness up here. As well as right here. Okay, this is on my center line right here, so I don't want to pull that over. And maybe just a little bit more roundness right down here. He's got kind of some baggy eyes. Okay. And I don't want to pull that back. Alright, so I did that actually without edge flow on, so that's why I was kind of pulling some of those points around right there just to get these back out here. I didn't want them sinking in quite yet. This one right here. Okay. Alright, so I'm going to go back and select the faces again and extrude. I'm going to center that and scale that in. And I'm going to start pushing it back in here for his eyes that kind of sink in a little bit. And do that. Okay, extrude again, centering that, scaling that in, and push it back a little bit, and I'm just starting to get to what's going to be the eyeball area, so I'm going to pull these down just a little bit more, widen them up a little bit right here, and just looking at where the eyelids actually start. So I'm going to push this back one more time and extrude it again, center that, and I'm going to scale it more in this direction here, and I'm actually going to start pulling this out. Okay, so this is going to be the eyelid area, and I'm going to just knock out those faces right there. Okay, so this gives me the opening here and kind of the beginnings of what's going to be the eyelids, the upper and lower eyelids. And to shape that, I'm going to need a sphere in there to kind of sit as the placeholder for the eyeball. So I'm just going to drop this in and bring it over here, frame up on that, and scale up on this a bit, and I also want to rotate it forward. just set that at 90 degrees. Okay, and this is representing the pupil for the eyeball, and I'm just going to tuck it back in there. Actually, I think it needs to be quite a bit bigger, and we'll push it back like that. And then I'm going to just start shaping around this. Scale it down just a little bit. Okay, so I've got quite a bit of shaping to do around here, and I'm looking just at the placement of the eye, so it's in pretty different location than the actual eye here. If I were to center this on my drawing, it's clear out over here, but again, I've got the eye that's sort of wrapping around the side of the head, and I don't think I want to pull it back quite that far, so I'm going to just cheat this in a little bit right about here, pull it over here, and I will bring back some of this area right here along the side. This is sort of the temple area. So with the eyeball selected, I'm actually going to put this out on a display later, and I'm going to click that twice till it goes to R, and that way I cannot select it anymore. And this will allow me to move around and shape the eyelids around the sphere. Okay, so I'm going to just kind of start in here by going back to my modeling toolkit, putting on edge slide, and I'm going to pull some of these points back. This is going to open up this area here. Okay, I'm going to go to wireframe and grab some of these points right here. And I'm just holding down the control key and deselecting the ones in the back, going back to 5 on my keyboard. So I'm actually going to turn edge slide off here. I need to move the location of these. Go back to 5, and I want to kind of pull these up, pick up these 2 points here, and get them over here. And push these back. Okay, and then I'm going to start pulling these points up and out. And I grab something over there on the side, so I just want to be careful that I'm grabbing just the points that I want. And if you're having trouble kind of visualizing where these are landing and you're sort of new to this, you can always go to 4, and that will allow you to see your wireframe, and you can go in here and kind of select these one by one as you need to. Go back to 5, where it's a little easier to see where you're pulling these, and do it that way. Okay, I've got this corner area here that I want to grab, and I'm just going to double check that I got the right ones. Okay, and pulling these out. Pull that around. Okay, and then I've got this one here. And I can tell that I've grabbed some in the back, or I haven't grabbed the right ones. There we go. Let me just go to wireframe, and I've grabbed a few in the back, so I'm just going to hold down Control and drag a marquee to deselect those in the back. Okay, pulling this out, and need to grab this as well. Alright, so just wrapping these around the back side a little bit more. That's the cheekbone area. And since I don't have edge slide on, I'm just making sure that I'm not losing volume when I pull these around. They're not sliding into the character. Okay, like this one right here has slid in. Okay. Alright, so that's looking a lot better. Okay. Let's determine where the sort of tear ducts are. We've got this little corner right here, which looks like it lines up right about here. So I'm going to go ahead and kind of pull these up and over and start creating tear duct. So I want to pull these very close together here. That's going to create that area where our eyelids come together in the corner. Okay, so this is the lower one and the upper one, and this character's upper eyelid comes down quite far. It's actually these two here. So I don't want it to just be one point. I actually want to have 2 points coming together to create the corner here. Push that down a little, bring it in, pull this one up. Okay. And I'll definitely be coming back in here and adding some more edges to tighten this up. Alright, but I'm just going to pull those over, pull this down. And pull these back just a little bit more again. Okay, so a lot of this is that the eyes that I've drawn here are quite large, so I have to kind of keep moving things around here to open it up for them. Alright, so and the outer corner is sitting up a little bit higher, so we're going to call this right here the corner, the outer corner of the eye, or eyelids. And I'm just going to tuck that back in here. I will have to add more edge loops to hold that together, but I'm going to get to that a little later. I just want to block out the basic shape still. Okay. Alright, so I'm just starting to go around the eyelid right now, the upper eyelid, to shape it. And I feel like our eyeball's sitting back too far. So I'm just going to make a little adjustment on that. Pull these up. Go back to my channel box and I'm going to uncheck that. Go back to object mode and make this just a little larger and push it in. Okay, so it's not too terribly far off from the drawing. Let's see if I can get it just a little larger and push it back. Sometimes the trick is to scale it up and push it back in. Okay, so that's probably about as far as I can push that. Okay. Alright, so what I'm going to do here is just start shaping this around the eyeball, so I'm going to go and restrict that again, select this, and go to vertex and start shaping that. So I'm going to start with the points that are out the furthest, which are these here. And pull these down like that. And I'm going to be extruding this in just a minute to kind of create another fold. So I don't want it out quite that far. Let's give it just a little bit of space there because we are going to create some thickness for the eye. And I don't want to lose kind of the heavy feeling that the character has with his eyelids. So I'm going to push those back in a little more. Okay. These can actually go back in a little more. This is going to give him kind of a little bit more sunken in look. And these could all go back in as well. Push those first, and then I'm going to deselect those and push these in. And I grabbed some on the back side. I was not paying attention. There we go. Alright, so let's take these first, push them back and over a little bit. Okay. Do that. And then the corner here. Grab these four and push them back as well. And I'm just looking at the drawing. Okay, so I've still got another extrude to do, so that will bring it in closer to the drawing. And then these here all need to go back as well. And I think I'm going to push these down. I really like kind of the sagginess happening right here in the corner. He looks very tired. Okay. And I think that's good. So I'm actually going to spread these out just a little bit. We've got one more extrude to do, so I don't want to pull them up too high in there. Okay. Just looking at the nose here, or across the bridge right here. He doesn't really have a nose. Just straightening that out. This here too. Okay. Alright, so from here, now that I've got it kind of shaped out, I'm going to grab, I'm just cleaning these up a little bit more before I jump in here. I'm going to pull these out. This is sort of the brow, his kind of heavy eyebrows that I want to make sure are coming out. Okay, right there and here. And there. Alright, so I'm going to grab the edge around the eyelid, double click on it, and extrude it, center it, and I'm going to to scale it down a little bit in Y and then pull it out. Scale it down just a little bit more. And just tuck it in a little bit in X. So I'm not scaling it in as much as X because I want to keep these corners pretty tight over here. Do that. Hit Q to get out of that, and then I'm going to go back to vertex and just make some adjustments now. So here's the corner. I want to line those up and push them in. And grab these points here, start pulling those in. I'm pulling these out. I just want to get a little bit more volume on the eyelid to make it look heavier. Pull this one out a little too far. And then this is a good view to kind of look down at the top of the eyelid here to just see the roundness of it. And there's some areas where it's kind of going flat here. And I think maybe I just pulled those out a little too far. Okay, and then I'm just straightening things up here. I'm trying to keep everything very even and flowing in a nice straight line. The character's eyes are really important. That's usually where we're looking when a character's talking. Kind of back and forth between the mouth and the eyes. So we want to make sure the eyes are modeled correctly and don't have kind of strange pinching or deformations going on when they animate. Okay, then I'm just going to come back to the corner here again where I've got these 2 points and kind of pull them in together. Push them in. Actually, it's getting a little close there, so I'm getting ready to make the thickness of the eyelid, so I'm making some space for that. And these points are a little close. Again, kind of just checking the roundness of the eye. Pulling that up. And then taking these, kind of pushing these guys back down again. I want to kind of preserve that baggy area right here. And these 2 points, I'm going to actually push them down closer like that and push them in. Okay. Alright, so I'm going to extrude it one more time. I'm just going back to that edge. And this is going to create the thickness, so I'm going to actually use the thickness right here and push it back in. I'm going to turn the eye off so I can just see how far it's going back. So this is pretty thick for a character here, but I do want my character to have these kind of heavy lower eyelids. So I am going to kind of leave it like that. Center it here and maybe pull these in like that. And like that. And then I'm going to extrude again. I'm going to center it, and I'm actually going to widen it and push it back. So what I'm doing right now is creating a partial eye socket, the inner side of the eye, just so the character's eye is blinking or something, or it's moving the eyeball around, we don't accidentally see like a little gap here where there's nothing. Okay, so just checking that. That looks okay. Turn the eyeball back on, and let's take a look at that. Alright, so I may pull this eyelid down. I feel like his eye is a little more open than what I drew it. He's got more of a kind of sleepy eye going on here. And that's just sort of pulling these points back down here. But this is sort of a neutral pose here. I feel like this is more of a sleepy eye here, and this is more neutral. So I think I'm going to just stick with that. And I'm going to go ahead and come back to faces, and we're going to do the same routine here of cutting the character in half, deleting that side, going back to object mode, and the center still looks like it's okay. I'm just going to do a quick check on it here, and I've got this one off here too, so I'm just resetting that tool, and make sure I don't have, no, I don't. And it looks like it's on the grid there just fine. I'm just going to double check. Okay, so back to object mode, shift, right mouse click, and I'm going to just mirror it from here. Okay, and same thing with the eyeballs, so I'm going to duplicate special that over instead of copying it. So I'm going to restrict that, select the eyeball, I'm going to freeze transformations to zero everything out. The pivot point is around the eyeball, so I want to move that over to center. And this eyeball is right on center, which it's not necessarily great. So I'm going to just scale it down a little bit, and actually that wasn't bad, so I'm getting kind of that droopy eye thing I was trying to get. And just pull it over a little bit. Go. So it's a little bit closer to where it was in the drawing, and not right on the edge there. So again, I'm going to freeze transformation since I moved it, and D to move the pivot point. I'm going to hold the X key down to snap it on the grid. D again to get out of that, and edit, duplicate special. Okay, so I should come in here and name these. So this is eye left, that's eye right, and this is the character's left eye. Okay, and this is, I'll go ahead and name these, horn right and horn left. And I'm just going to grab all of these here and go ahead and delete the history on that. Delete by type history. Clean that up. I don't need these curves anymore. I'm going to delete those. And the character's body is inside there. I'm going to pull that out. Call that body. Get rid of that. And that kind of cleans our scene up here. Alright, so we'll come back in the next lesson and we're going to model the mouth.